Hi, welcome everyone. So we are joined today by Solid Systems and Legalese for this webinar. Just a brief background on Legalese. If you're new here, we're a creative legal agency that focuses on core areas of law, namely commercial law, data and regulations, which is why we're here today, labor, and then IT. And then we are also joined by Solid Systems, graciously partnering with us for this webinar series. Solid Systems, in case you're not familiar with them, are a managed IT service provider with a focus on helping businesses to exceed their goals with the help of technology. We're joined by the co-founder, Daniel Annever, and from Legalese's side, we've got our head of data and regs, Lauren van der Bijl. Great. We're going to start off with Daniel sharing some real-world examples of why we need IT management and data protection in the real world. Daniel, why don't you kick us off?
Thank you very much, Serene. Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Solid, and I want to start off by telling you a little story of what happened in our company. One of our employees, his name's Waldo, he gets a WhatsApp scam message pretending to be our COO, and it says, "Hi, Waldo, I need a favor. I need 10,000 Rand worth of iTunes vouchers." Waldo kind of giggles to himself because he's like, well, had they done their research, they would have realized we provide cybersecurity and this is what we're trained to look for. So he giggled, but he also snipped it and he posted it in our WhatsApp channel. So the whole company was there and they saw this message and the whole channel erupted. It was quite exciting because everyone was deciding, what are we going to do? What are we going to play? How are we going to play this? And Lara from marketing, who doesn't actually get to interact with everyone all the time, she jumps in and she says, Waldo, I got you. And she takes vouchers, iTunes vouchers, superimposes 10,000 Rand, sends him to Waldo. Waldo sends it back to the scammer. The whole team is like, oh, we got him. It was actually hilarious. From a business owner, how I felt, I saw the whole team come together. I felt like this is amazing. It's like a team building. Went on for hours. And it was like a team building I didn't have to even pay for. It was amazing. I mean, the gifts and the chatter and we had like Michael Jackson eating popcorn. You had like Mickey Mouse gifts, laughing like it was a great, great day. Anyway, it kind of fizzled out throughout the day, but it really was. It made me feel proud that we had obviously caught the scammer, but also that the team came together. I mean, the scammer caught wind that we were, pulling his leg. Anyway, that was in 2022. Then I want to take you to 2024, this July. We've just hired KG. Now, KG is our new sales administrator in the business. And he's, it's like, I think it's his first or second job. So he's quite new to the job market. But from a culture point of view, absolute tech. I mean, he's a growth and learning. He communicates excellently. He's got a great energy around him. And so we thought it was a great hire. And a couple of weeks into the onboarding, I call Sam, his manager. And I say, Sam, how's KG? How's it going? And Sam says to me, oh, amazing. He really is a culture fit. He's learning processes. He communicates well. And yeah, everything's going well, except for this one thing. And there's like a pause. And I said, yes. And she says, well, KG called me the other day in a panic, scared, frightened, didn't know what to do. He was actually afraid to lose his job. I said, yeah. And she says, well, he was standing at the ATM, having drawn the last bit of money from his bank account, because he thought Michael had sent him a WhatsApp for a favor to buy these iTunes vouchers. This is KG, the guy we just hired. I was like, my heart like sunk, and inside I just said, surely not. I tell you the story because in today's interconnected world, I don't think we all realize how vulnerable our businesses really are. And the truth is that humans, you, me, us, we're the weakest link. This is I'm super passionate about this topic because I've been working in technology for 25 years and I've seen how it's all put together. And these webinars and communication and ChatGPT and Microsoft Word and all these tools are absolutely incredible. But the reality is behind the scenes, what we see, it's like they've been put together with like sticky tape and plasters. So if you're a business owner that wants to better understand the risk to your business, this is a great webinar to be in. And if you're an employee who just doesn't want to feel like cagey, it's also important to take note. So I've given an example about this human side, but one of the questions that always come up is, but why is technology vulnerable? Where does it come from? What's going on? Why are these vulnerabilities exist? So I thought I'd like take a step back and say, what is a computer? Like if we look at computers, they exist everywhere. They're in our organizations, they're in our hotels, they're in our homes, they're absolutely everywhere. But what are they and what makes them vulnerable? Well, if we break it down, a computer is a piece of hardware with a piece of software on top to perform a task. So think about it. You've got a computer, it's got Microsoft Word, and Microsoft Word performs a task. You write a document, you click print, and it prints. That's an expected behavior. We all know that, write a document, click print, and it prints. But I'm sure if you're like me, have you ever clicked print and it doesn't print? That's an unexpected behavior. And they exist everywhere. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with the blue screen of death. Your computer just goes blue and restarts, and everything you were doing was just doing nothing. That's an unexpected behavior. Or the Mac, the wheel, the spinning wheel, that's an unexpected behavior. Now you might be wondering why those exist. Well, it's a whole nother webinar, but basically humans create software, humans are fallible, they make mistakes, and they create unexpected behaviors. And those unexpected behaviors in cybersecurity are actually called weaknesses or vulnerabilities. Weaknesses or vulnerabilities. And vulnerabilities are like catnip to hackers. Hackers absolutely love them. The rarer, the better. And the reason for that is because one rare vulnerability can earn a hacker up to $8 million. Yes, $8 million. Said differently, 2 vulnerabilities, $16 million. So as you can imagine, they're very valuable. And there is a whole industry around finding these vulnerabilities, these computers that don't print, so to speak, and selling them so that they can be used to exploit and steal data. And so part of the solution is around cybersecurity, which is what we do. But another part of the solution is around the legal and compliance. And for that, I'd like to hand over to Lauren.
That's exactly what we're going to talk about and lead directly from what Daniel's just touched on is exactly that. Data protection laws emerged to address growing concerns around privacy and the misuse of personal data because of a manipulation of vulnerabilities in software as the internet emerged. So when technology was booming and the internet was skyrocketing, we found that companies were collecting just huge amounts of personal data for commercial gain. And this essentially was no regulation. And this is what sparked public outcry over the misuse of data and things like data breaches, which pushed governments worldwide to consider stricter provisions. In the 1990s, Europe led the charge by introducing the Data Protection Directive. In 2018, they then again led the charge worldwide by introducing the General Data Protection Regulation, or the GDPR as we mostly know it, which set the standard globally for the prioritization of personal information and the protection thereof. Once the GDPR came into effect, other nations started to follow suit, including the state of California in America, Brazil, and even South Africa in 2021 with POPIA, Protection of Personal Information Act. All of these laws seek to focus on transparency, user consent, data minimization, and all of these things to reflect a worldwide consensus that privacy is a fundamental human right that needs to be protected. So kind of how does that apply to businesses and employees and all of us? Well, anyone that processes personal information for a commercial purpose must comply with POPIA or whichever other data law is applicable to you. So, for example, the GDPR. Compliance involves practically implementing the conditions for lawful processing as described in these legislations. And although that might seem complex or like a mouthful, what it really involves, like Daniel said, is the balancing of legal compliance with cybersecurity compliance. So legal compliance focuses on meeting the laws and regulations that govern how data is processed and stored and shared and all of these things. It ensures that organizations like companies, entrepreneurs, businesses all comply with legal standards and guidelines as set forth in legislation, so GDPR and POPIA. Cybersecurity compliance, on the other hand, is primarily concerned with safeguarding data against these vulnerabilities and these threats that hackers manipulate. It implements IT security frameworks and standards like ISO, for example, and ensures that data protection controls are in place to secure personal data. So what is the relationship between these two things? Well, essentially, legal compliance often requires cybersecurity compliance as part of its standards. For example, in POPIA and the GDPR as well, it requires responsible parties or controllers to implement appropriate, reasonable, technical, and organizational measures to secure personal data, and that involves cybersecurity standards. So legal compliance, therefore, ensures the lawful handling of data through the creation of policy documents that regulate all these elements, while cybersecurity informs and verifies that the content of those policies actually meet the measures necessary and make sure that the appropriate protections are in place. Together, these two elements or these two pillars create a full spectrum of data protection, covering both legal and technical defenses. So it's therefore super important not to look at data compliance in a sort of vacuum. Without cybersecurity safeguards, having legal policies may be rendered useless because there's no practical implementation of your policy. You just really have words on a page. If you only have cybersecurity measures without documentation or recording them in documentation, this limits your accountability. It makes it difficult for you to verify what compliance you actually have in place, and you may then open yourself up to regulatory scrutiny or potential penalties because you can't actually evidence what you've done. It's therefore core and fundamental for legal and IT security teams to collaborate, as meeting data compliance relies on understanding both your legal obligations and your technical safeguards. If you fail in either of these areas, you open yourself up to these vulnerabilities, being data breaches, you might face in fines, and more importantly, you might face reputational harm from your clients, from other businesses in your sector. Essentially, not a good look. So effective data compliance, therefore, really relies on not only implementing both pillars, but it relies on building both client trust and implementing both these pillars. And we hope that by diving into this summary and understanding, we've given you like a brief history and as sort of a base to work from to see where this data law comes from and where this compliance really stems from. And in our next session with Solid on the 14th, we're going to dive into proposed solutions from both the legal as well as the technical side that kind of meets these compliance